Hey folks, this is Tully and welcome to more game dev. Combat Improvements Part 2. Just finished up streaming for 2-ish hours, took a bit of a dinner break, and we're back again with some more game development. So last time we were doing a bunch of bug fixes, got pretty codey. I think we're going to try and change gears a little bit, as a lot of the major issues have kind of been resolved. The biggest thing that we did in the last stream was re-hooking up the ability to switch between characters. This had kind of gotten a bit broken when we switched over to the new UI system a few months ago. And so I just wanted to come back in and take another look at this. And it was actually relatively straightforward to set this back up. It all kind of just worked. And now we can switch between the characters and they have different abilities. And so that's all working as intended. And we kind of needed to fix that in order to move into the next steps. So I'd like to start playing with the different abilities that the characters have. Right now, most of them have some pretty basic ones. Obviously, we have like a pretty primitive attack. But we also have like Flame Stab and Defend. And then Giju and Follow have kind of two abilities that work off of each other. If we do attack here, we can see the 1 damage. We see the mushroom is also comboing because it has the same abilities that the Mimic and the Rogue have, Giju and Fala. And so if we look at Fala, she has this Flame Slash. It consumes a Shadow Point and costs 2 mana, and then it does a more powerful attack, basically. And so you have the Mimic create the Shadow Energy, and then she consumes the Shadow Energy. It's kind of like an elemental combo point system at its core. Primary problem is we're not telling you about the elemental costs. Now, I think that there are ways that we can incorporate that into the HUD, so maybe like it raise red if you're missing it or something, but I think we could also just have it in a description. And I would love to also have descriptions of like what skills like Defend do. This is something that Drixie made in her mock-ups for this UI, but I didn't actually end up implementing right away. So I'd like to fix that. I also found another bug while we were taking that dinner break. I'm going to comment that out for the time being. I've made a task in the software so I don't lose it, so I think we're good. Now we just need to move on. So okay, so making descriptions. So that means we're gonna have to switch gears. Let's switch out of kind of big gameplay mode and let's switch into the front end because we're gonna need to modify the UI. And the UI isn't actually in the combat scene. We have all of the UI separated out into this front end sandbox, which has kind of just become the front end. It originally started as a place to play, but it has evolved. And then we're going to turn off HUD and UI just so that we can see a little better. We also see the victory screen, which I'm not sure I've actually shown yet. And let's see, where is this thing? This thing is here, the action menu. And we have this old system, which was the... Yeah, we have the ability, if this ability component was getting updated, it should auto work, but this is an older system. Also, I see the hydrate unlockables. 1 sec. All right. Thank you for keeping me hydrated. Oh, hello. First time chatter. Thanks for the follow, Lockoffy. I'm going to assume Lockoffy. But yeah, so we had this old style of menus, which I've been slowly converting over into this new style. But this one did have the ability to update a description about the ability, which was here. Damage 1 was the base text. Okay, so here we have this ability info component. So where is this currently used anywhere? It is. Okay. So let's turn it back off again and let's duplicate it and let's slowly take back the functionality we need, because we don't really need the portraits and things in here. I think I primarily just want the description at this point. We'll leave the commented out one so that we have for reference, but this one here has current unit details, which I don't think we care about. It's debatable. We may want this information. This is kind of handy. In fact, it will Does this have the toggle? It has the health and the MP kind of being shown here. What if we just shifted all of this information over? Let's go to scene view. If we just grabbed all of this and we just move this over here. The primary problem is we don't have a portrait anymore. We don't have like the portrait PNGs. This is an older version of Drixie's art. We haven't really remade Drakon yet. I believe. Yeah. Comment from La Coffee. What's your game about? So trying to make a JRPG game. I guess that's a fair point. When coming back from the break here, I've spent 3 hours or 2 hours debugging stuff. And I never really stopped to kind of show where the game's been at. And it's been a couple months since I've done any streaming on it. So let's take a quick run around. So let's see if we go to the main menu, which is our boot. We're going to need to toggle the other things back on. Okay, and we go to main menu. Let's do a quick walk around. So we've got the boot screen, which we can either hit new game, which will take us into a cutscene. Hello Ninja Penguin Live. Also, let's get this on a proper scale. Let's zoom in. Let's pull the hierarchy over top of the project. And then zoom this out. Okay, so we can either continue, which will load us into the dungeon. A lot of this is fake save stuff. It's half working, but we're kind of waiting on like the save manager to be finished. But if we go new game, this will take us into a cutscene, which honestly I haven't done in a few weeks because I've been pretty focused on some combat stuff. So we're just not going to risk the cutscene. There's a video of it up on the YouTubes if people are really curious. And then we can walk around in here. Oh, right. I forgot that the dungeon doesn't actually work with mouse and with controller anymore. That's another bug that I lost at some point. So we've got our dungeon walking around. There's a problem with still idols facing north they're popping up. So if I walk this way, his offset is different. And it's again to do with some problems with the combat stuff. In general, the dungeon has been a bit neglected as we've been doing other things. Once I finish up with combat, dungeon is the next thing I'm going to come back to. I can pick up a thing. And then, yeah, if we go into the menus, we have our skill screen in which we can see our different characters and the current skills that they have equipped. If I come in here and I make my way through all of these different node trees, I can unlock new abilities as well as new stats for my character. One of these unlocks, yeah, a new attack for him. So the idea would be that you go down through these trees and make your way through and reach some unlockable abilities as well as general improvements to the skills. And then you can unequip like defend and equip focus attack. And then when you go into combat, you'd have that new ability. And then focus attack comes in with its own skill tree, which currently is all defense because I haven't hooked this one up. And then we have basic items. We can use an antidote to hurt ourselves just to test functionality. It'll reduce our health, and then we can use a potion to heal ourselves, kind of just showing the different items working. And then equipment, we can come in here and we can equip a better sword, which I don't love some of the way this UI is operating, but it's a pretty good skeleton for a lot of the systems I want. And then intel status and options are just images. They're not actually part of the image or a part of the menu. And then if I walk into the shadow ball up here, or if I hit R for debugging purposes, I could get an encounter. But I can walk up to this guy. Going on a little journey up to the shadow ball, and he starts a battle. And then we can go in here. We can switch to the mimic character Giju, use Shadow Slash, which generates shadow combo points. And then I haven't actually tried focus attack. Does this work? Yeah, it does. It does 1 damage the same as a normal attack, which is the thing I was going to look at next. Is the thing we're going to be working on today is maybe tuning some of these different attacks and actually putting in some damage formulas. All these skills really just do like 1 or 2 damage right now, but I'd like to start working in some damage formulas. So we can switch off of Giju and back to Follow the Rogue, and we can use Shadow Slash, which will consume one of our Shadow combo points. And then that does more damage than the regular attacks. So there's kind of a bit of an ebb and flow between the two of them. And Shadow Slash this one. Oh, we missed. Can use potions in battle. There are bugs. Currently, the items don't despawn when we switch between menus. This is kind of the general sense of things, is that like it's been like 2 years now that we've been working through a lot of this, and it's been a lot of like back-end systems. It's been like a year just working on like the front-end system, getting it feeling really good. To be clear, part-time, not full-time, but just like weekends and evenings. Full-time job is as a game programmer / designer in the games industry, and so like I only have so much time that I can put into side project stuff. But it's been 2 years, and like it's been a lot of systems, but we're just starting to get to the point where I can start doing videos where I'm more showing like the design process. Switch here, Shadow Slash, as we start to kind of actually balance things, because this isn't really balanced. It's more just like, hey, you can do a bunch of things, but we want to try and get it to the point where it's a little bit more fun. All the systems are in place. And like broadly speaking, and then we're back here again. Again, the joystick doesn't work super well. I got to figure out what's going on with the controller in the dungeon. But broadly speaking, the overarching narrative is like a full JRPG game. All the art is made by Drixie, my fiance. Drixie made all of this. Again, that's part of the reason that it's been 2 years, is slowly developing an art style and coming up with things. So all these panoramas, all of the background art, the panorama background art, the menu background art, the characters, all the UI, all of that stuff was the monsters. Everything's Drixie. Slowly building up a style. She's redone a lot of them over the last little bit. Like these monsters are reworks from the previous versions that we had. She remade these last week or the week before to try and fit into the new art style that we're kind of moving towards for the combat. But yeah, but long story short, it's essentially a long form JRPG, something akin to a Final Fantasy VI, but with like the art style more similar to something like a Final Fantasy Tactics. With a elemental combo point system. The other thing that's kind of we're working towards but we don't fully have is like getting it so the elemental combo points persist between battles. So when you do elemental combo points, those things are always there forever. So you can take combo points from one battle into the next. And we also have other plans on how to interact with that in terms of other gameplay mechanics. So it's coming together. It's probably still several years away from being finished just because of the sheer amount of content that I want to get into it. The narrative is pretty large, and the amount of like areas I want to move to is like I want to have that whole like continental experience of like a long linear gameplay experience as you move through areas, slowly return, like real Final Fantasy 9, Final Fantasy 6, Final Fantasy 10, like those are kind of like the main inspiration points. Unlockable characters, so art style of FF&T, story style of FF6, and skill system and job system of FF12. Kind of, I would say the job system or the skill system is more like Final Fantasy, X, but even then it's a little bit more. It's something I hadn't seen before. I feel like I'm unique. If I'm not unique, let me know too. But the idea is that each of the skills that a character has a skill tree. Instead of having like a skill tree per character, each skill has its own unique skill tree. So when we go into Flame Stab, it has this skill tree, but when we go into Defend, it has its own skill tree, and they're different. And there are stat increasing nodes in them, but there are also some nodes like these ones here with the arrows are meant to represent like ability improvements. So those would actually be things that like increase flame stab's power, for example, or add a chance to burn. And so if you get those, it makes flame stab a better skill. And then some of them will be like mastery nodes, which will allow you to always have it equipped. Once you master a skill by unlocking its mastery node, it will permanently be equipped all the time instead of taking up one of your 2 equip slots. There's also things like I probably want to increase the number of equip slots by having different nodes. And then the other big one is unlocking new skills. So if I work my way through this tree, right now I have it on, like, I have 20 points by default, so I have enough to unlock pretty much everything on every skill tree. But if I unlock one of these 2, I don't know which one because the description I haven't fully set up yet, one of these 2 unlocks a new ability. It's a new ability node. And so if we come back, we have focus attack, and then focus attack would have its own skill tree. And so the skill system would be moving your way through these skill trees, and skills only gain experience if you have them equipped for battle, and you can only use these skills that you have equipped or you have mastered in battle. So you can't like, so you kind of have to pick which tree you're investing your levels into in order to be leveling it up and moving along it in hopes of eventually unlocking new skills that gives you new trees to start traversing. Does that broadly make sense? Like it's like a mesh of like a Final Fantasy X skill tree or a Final Fantasy 12. The 12 had more of that like checkerboard style, but meshed with the skills being the actual thing, not the characters. The characters don't have jobs. The skills have essentially that FF12 job system. And I say more 10 than 12 to be clear, because 12 is more the visual look, but 10 is more the content. Like 10 had a lot more of unlocking stats and stuff. There wasn't like a lot of like stats, and like 12 had that whole license system, which I didn't really love. Unlockable Character says equipped or mastered. So the choice is between aiming for stronger skills or mastering for more variety. Yeah, I would think that the idea here is that if we look at like defend, there might be Flame Stab's a better example. Flame Stab might have like a defend, or so I was thinking the mastery node for it is here on this tree, but then the new upgrade node would be like here. And so yeah, so I had something in here, but there was no valid ID, so I haven't given it an unlock. So this is an example of where like I can either go master this so that I have it always equipped, and it will, if I master it, it will also gain more experience, so I can kind of just go master it and then it'll passively gain the rest of its skills. Or I can go right towards a new skill, which might have better stats and better things for combat. Yeah, I played Zodiac as well. I still didn't love the license system. It wasn't my favorite. I did enjoy that game, but it wasn't my favorite. And 10 is something that I think conceptually I'm more excited about. So, but yeah, the idea behind like having your skills upgrade is something that I'm really trying to work on. And I don't feel like there's a lot of games that have done like the skill tree in each skill. It has some problems, like, yeah. So like here, because I mastered Flame Stab, which Drixie gave me a new star icon I need to replace this check mark with. But because I have this mastered, now I have basically 3 abilities that I'll go into combat with. And then Flame Stab will continue to gain experience just like Defend and Focus Attack because it's been mastered. To be very clear, all of this is conceptual. I have no idea if this will work, or whether this will be fun or interesting, or if it's just going to be a hodgepodge mess of like, which skill has what thing and what do I need, and like, oh my god, I have to go through all of these. And I plan to have a lot of characters as well, which each character set will have their own unique set of skills. It's just is going to be a lot, and I don't know. I don't know. It might be a terrible idea. We'll have to see. But that's what we're working on. That's what we're moving through. So, that makes sense. Everyone all caught up? Any other questions, thoughts, opinions? Broad overview. Fantastic. Okay, so we're gonna jump back into I was adding a description. I wanted to add a description to the bottom of the combat menu. And then after that, I'd like to go through the skill tree and try and make some new abilities and get some damage formulas in. But if I'm going to add new abilities, I really want that description bar to be there. I feel like it's pretty crucial next step to have the description in combat for the different abilities. Ooh. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about Unlockable Characters. Some of the inspiration came from Final Fantasy World as well, which was a really interesting kind of like mix of a Final Fantasy game and a like almost like Pokemon kind of collection game. And in that one, they did like a skill tree for every one of your Pokemon, but you had to go through all of them, and it kind of had that same similar feel. But it was kind of this next step for me of like, well, what if we did that on skills? What if each skill had their own skill tree? So it's a bit crazy, but I have high hopes. I think I can balance it. Combat base. We want combat action, right? So we were copying this guy, and we were debating whether or not we wanted to put the information about the character above the top of the menu. Make this box 2. We're just gonna make it 2 bigger on all sides. We need to do -2 then. Okay, and then we'll swap it back so the portrait's over top, and look at that, it fits perfectly. And then I think we might want to move it up. Well, we definitely want these things to be whole numbers, that's for sure. Maybe we don't want anything that's in between a pixel. And then I probably want to move that over a couple more units. That looks about center to me. Yeah, the problem is that Trixie hasn't made me any portraits for these characters. I don't think I want to just use their like bodies, the whole character. That feels a bit overkill. Southeast facing center. I mean, that's not bad, though. It's not bad. I don't hate it. Okay. How does the portrait system work? Where is it grabbing that information from? So there is a component-based system, text-based components. This is the toggle. Where do you construct this portrait? Is this portrait being used anywhere? Does not look like we have one yet. I did not construct a portrait one. Okay. I'm gonna leave it for now. My goal here was to get the description up and running, not the portraits. So we're gonna move away from that. I could see a name having value though. Where is the name text? That's under this title box. Oh shoot, didn't want to move anything. I could see the name actually being pretty useful. Honestly, more useful than the information that I had before. So let's do that. Let's pull this into here. Most of our character names are only 4 characters long, so that should be pretty good. What is the size of this menu element? It looks like it's 55 by 64. So we want this to be 55 units. And then we want to try and line this up. Again, whole numbers. Some of this stuff was built during a time before Okay, that looks right. Okay, and then as for the name itself, I did want to change this to probably Shadowed. That looks a little better to me. And then if that was the name, that would be, like if it was the Mimic, it'd be Giju, or it'd be Fala. Okay, yeah. Let's do Ward by default. And then the description is going to need the same treatment. It's going to need a similar box down below. Snooky says, I've been a long-time subscriber. Never really caught any of your streams. I can't recall why I subbed, as it's probably been a decade now. I vaguely remember now. Did you make Scary Online Story a while ago with moderate success, or mistaking identity? No, primarily the majority of my subscribers were from Minecraft, from like the 2010 era. That was like the majority, and then there was a tail of Oblivion, Skyrim, and Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas. Those were kind of the other big four after Minecraft. There was many games over the past, like, 12 years, but those were the primary ones, and the majority of my content was in the like 2010 to 2013, 14 range. I'm pretty sure. Could be misquoting myself, but I think that's correct. Where is the sub menu? That's this guy. Okay, I think all of this needs to be moved up to make room for the description. Let's see. Let's move it up. Plus 32. That feels way too high. Plus 16. All right, sure. Let's go with that. And then we'll plus this by 16 as well, so it stays where it was before. And then we'll also plus this one by 16. Cool. And then we can bring things back down again if we need to. Let's duplicate this title background, and we'll rename it to description background. And then we will delete that and drag this under here. In general, I don't love this thing. I think I want this to be... Yeah, it's like bottom left aligned, or bottom... Let's just make this stretch, which is going to change the position of a bunch of things, but I think this is better in the long run. Let's do bottom left corner for this. It will be 8 pixels out. We need to change its pivot to be 0, 8 pixels out. And then from the bottom, I don't know, we'll just drag it until it's close. 108. Okay. And then this one here, same idea, 0, 1, bottom left corner for alignment, 8 pixels from the side, 8 pixels up. Let's do it the other way, 8 pixels up. Okay, that's close. Kind of like the squareness of 8 from the side and 8 from the bottom, so I think we'll keep it there and we'll move everything else. So this needs to be plus 2 pixels probably. Nope. Plus 4 pixels. Same thing with the sub action menu, plus 4. And then same thing with the title background. Look at that, making it work. And now description. I think I'd like the description to extend out. Well, number one, the description should match the size of the box. Like that. We're going to change this to be this one. Do we want this to be shadowed as well? Shadowed looks a little better. 8 point. And then we're going to pull the description out. Probably to try and match this length, which looks to be about 185. Yeah, 185. Okay, and then we'll make the description left aligned. And we have to give it a bit of space. 6 pixels from the left. This looks so big. I guess that's just the sizing of it. That is 8 point. The description, yeah, that's okay. I think I just want to bring up 1 from the bottom, 2 from the bottom, and that gets it a little bit more centered in my eye. Cool. So that should be that, and then we don't care about... So this is describing the SP cost, which is covered in a different location now. So I think I can remove this component and I'll remove this element. Again, we have a backup of the old one that we can hold on to. We don't care about... I don't think I care about any of this elemental cost stuff. Again, I have a backup. Elemental produce. Again, we can delete. So now the only thing this thing is doing is updating the title and the text based off of the ability name and description. Oh, this is ability name, not unit name. Interesting. That's not actually what I want. I think I want this title to be... Okay. So if that's the case, what we're going to do is we're going to re-enable this one because this is about the current unit data. So this displays information about the ability. This displays information about the unit under here. So we'll turn these off and then we'll make it so this doesn't have... We'll just delete all of it. And then we're going to do remove this one, and remove this. And then we're going to do title. Name, unit name component, there we go. So this should work, then we just drag that into there. Okay, and then this thing works by getting, where does it search? It searches get components and units for data-driven components of type unit and data-driven components of type ability. Yeah, so that should just work. So this should update. Now, the only other thing I have to question is how these get toggled on and off. Looks like this has an auto deactivate, and it looks like the action menu has an ID, and then this has a current unit ID, current ability data. Okay, so probably need to go update our screen transitions to toggle these on and off. So, combat-based screen transitions. And we are looking for action open. Oh, it looks like it's already turning them on and off. Interesting. Cool. So that might just work. That does mean that we need to probably want to delete this, actually. Well, at the very least, I want to get rid of the entity IDs, because otherwise I'll have two things with the same entity ID. So we're going to get rid of that. Okay, cool. So a little bit of setup. I hope that wasn't too crazy. Again, I'm not necessarily fully tutorializing everything I'm doing because a lot of this is my own custom UI kind of code, but essentially we've set up a description that is here, and we have set up a title, which is the unit title. We'll just rename that to be a little more clear. And we set that up via a component. All this component does is takes the text object and sets it to the stored unit's name, and then all this is doing in the description one is, oh yeah, we want to remove this one now. All this one is doing is grabbing a text component and setting it to the ability display info get description. So it's just setting the description to that text object that we've given it. And that's all. And then this all works through a bunch of really crazy interface magic where this now has a parent that actually goes through and tries to find all subcomponents that are of type unit data and type ability data. And then that all gets refreshed somewhere. One of my screens updated. So it looks like it's inside of action menu. Yeah, so inside of the action menu, we give it the ability info and we update. Oh, so we want to actually drag this one into here. So yeah, we want to update this one from the combat action. So this will just update and manage this thing. And it updates and manages it automatically based off of the action menu. And the action menu operates off of ability info components. So it's all data driven. It's all kind of crazy in Magic. This one probably needs to do the same thing. Yep, this one also needs to update the same data. And then targeting, I don't think. Yeah, targeting doesn't care about that. All right, let's jump back in. Blada over on YouTube asking what happened to Minecraft. Honestly, got a little burnt out. I did a lot of Minecraft in a very short period of time, and I just ended up burning myself out of it a little bit. I'll probably come back in the future. Also, work got a little bit intense, to be fair, as well. Required a bit more of my time and effort. Okay, what am I doing? Oh, I need to go into combat. We need to see if all of that work we just did actually did what we wanted it to. So we've hooked up that. That all should work. I made the random choice to add the user's name above. Don't know if that's going to be a good call or a bad call. Let's find out. Look at that. So it's supposed to auto-fill the POW values. So some of that's broken, which is fine. That feels pretty good already. Honestly, I kind of want to put a drop shadow on the skill names as well. Oh, the color of the font is also a little bright. I need to use what Drixie gave me. Drixie really wanted it to be that darker gray color, which I think I have on hand. I don't. This is also too bright. This one. This is the color. Get me to status. Show me status. Come on. This one. This gray is what we want to be using. We might want to do a pass at some point and change it, but for the time being, this is the color we want to be using. A little bit less intense. And then same thing with, honestly, all of these victory screen ones. I didn't realize when I was doing these, but these are all pure white as well. You don't want to do pure white or pure black. It's usually a bit too extreme, too high contrast. Money text can get updated, and then this can get updated. And then the only thing I am not updating here is the item information, so we need to quickly go find that too. Just doing a little bit of cleanup. Appreciate the kind words, Blada. Appreciate. I think it's called like victory item. Yeah, victory item element. Yeah, and this thing here, we want to just change this text to... Oh, did I get this one right? All right, well, that's fine. Cool. So now let's jump back into combat. And then we gotta figure out... I guess we're moving into the data stuff now. That was a little quicker than I thought. I mean, what did that take? 30, 40 minutes? I guess technically we spent like 15, 20 minutes talking about like the game and the current state of things. But... Alright. Battle start. Cool. I'm not sure whether the drop shadows is a good idea or not, and whether or not I should have them on the actual skill selections. I'll wait for Drixie's opinion from the art standpoint, but for now, we'll leave it the way it is. I don't mind the description and the title popping a little bit more. Can we go to ×2, please? And then let's stack hierarchy and projects so that we can show it all at once. Kind of want to move Thief up a pixel or two. It looks a little low compared to like description, so yeah, and the attack, skill, and items looks really flat, so if I do want to do drop shadow, I probably want to do it on all of them. Okay, we also want to update Lightning's name because Lightning isn't life, and these characters have real names. So let's hit up the design data. It's been a little while since we've shown that on stream too. So that's still all like spreadsheet driven, just like some of the early video game or video game dev videos. Let's bring this across. Last edited 7 days ago. Oh god. So many of these things. Things have gotten a little crazy around here. Okay. So this one is the old way that we did design data. We're gonna archive that. So we're gonna hide this sheet. And then we're gonna rename this one to just ability. Okay, well, there, look at that. And then these are some other things. This can get hidden. This can get hidden. Ability effects was an idea for a little while. That can get hidden. Cool. And that got us down to a reasonable number of tabs. All right, so characters. Let's rename these to their proper names. So Thief is Fala. We've had these names for a long time. I just haven't got around to like updating the files. Okay. And then this all seems fairly correct. They have initial starting skills. Okay, that's good. So we're going to try adding some new skills, and we're going to also try updating the skill, the data. I call it abilities is what I originally called it, but I actually really like the word skill a lot more and slowly transition, but not everything has been updated to match. So sometimes they're called abilities, sometimes they're called skills. It's the same thing. Okay. So, ability map. Ability map 2. And then ability map test. All right, so let's see. A lot of these things, this description is just POW, which was because I was trying to like calculate the damage and show it to you. I probably still want to do that at some point, but it's likely not feasible, at least at this time. So let's change some of these descriptions to better match what they do. So Shadow Bolt is deals magic damage, require 1 so we're gonna make this an image because of the magic of Text Mesh Pro. We have set it up so that there are certain fonts that if we give them the right names, they will show up. So this says ice. How do I do this again? So if we grab a font, let's go back to the front end for a second to test this. What is the formatting? There's like a special formatting for font data. Text Mesh Pro formatting. Sprites. Excellent. Okay. So if we take a look at this text down here, if we do that, and we change this to fire, that becomes fire. We change it to earth, that becomes earth. If we change this to ice, it's ice, which also seems to be the default if the text is wrong, which is interesting. And then shadow is shadow. Okay, cool. So if we grab this exact text and we slam that into our design data here, we should have it so it just says requires 1 and then the shadow icon. Actually, this one produce, and then this one requires. Okay, and this one produces fire. I need to make this a little bit bigger. And then this one requires fire. Okay. Heavy damage? I'll have to think about like the design words for some of these things. Okay. And that seems good. The icons aren't being used anymore. This all seems okay. So let's start by seeing if we can get this data updated. So we're going to download that as a TSV. We're going to drop that in the right spot, which is boom. This one. This one. Here. Content TSVs, save over the old ability one. Okay. And then we should be able to, I haven't tried this one in a while, so I've rearranged some folders, so this might break ability parse. Nope, that looks like it parsed in the data correctly. So if we run the game and go back into combat, that should be a pretty easy way to see the updates. Deals damage, open skills, deals magic damage, requires 1 shadow. Okay. Yeah, that reads okay. And then if we go here, produces 1 shadow. Okay. Probably still want to have some sort of indication of like that this 2 represents skill points. I'm not 100% sure why I chose not to do it that way, but honestly, what I should do is I should make the 2 not like SP or something. It should also be an icon that's represented by these. These are getting replaced. I don't have the latest art, but I could get these added to the sheet. That would probably work pretty good. Honestly, that's deals magic damage, requires 1 shadow. Even at a base level, that is working. We did not import the characters though, so let's do that as well. So we need to update the characters with the new names. So we're going to do the same thing. File, download, TSV. We're going to drop that over top of the existing characters. Save over. Again, this may break. I can't remember whether or not I've updated this one with the new pathing. It didn't say anything. Probably okay. Let's find out. Yep, there's Ward. And then we'll switch and make sure Follow and Giju are reading correctly as well. Nice. Cool. Look at that. Doing things. So that feels better having that description. It does seem like that's about the limit of what we can have for a description though. Any longer and we'll like, so we can only have what, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-ish words for descriptions. That might not be enough. We can't really go much smaller on like font though, because again, this is what it actually looks like. This is our like target resolution. You can see there's not really many more pixels that you can form these words at. 8 point is kind of pretty small. So we might want to just extend this description a little further. Again, I'll let Drixie kind of make some of those art calls, but she can take a look later. For now, this is working. Cool. That's feeling better. Things are feeling better. Things are feeling better. Okay, so now let's see if we can get damage changed from 1 and 2s to actual real values. This is something I've kind of been like wary of for a while, because honestly, the act of like getting a damage formula is a bit like overwhelming. It's like I don't fully understand how to make a good damage formula, and like I've been letting it get to me, whereas I should just start with something and then go from there. So this is damage. Damage is minus. Damage effect ability. Okay, so this is... So there was a base calculation here. Damage is equal to POW. I see at the very bottom here is where how we were overriding it. Right, no. There's definitely a spot where we were just making it 1 or 2. Like we were just deciding that it was a value. Where do I make that change? This is predict. Maybe it's somewhere else. This is on apply. That's for revive. Oh, simple damage effect. I see. I see. We never... So damage effect is still existing as its normal version, but we made a simple version, which simply just gets min and max damage. Yeah, damage is just equal to power. So whatever the power was of the ability, we just dealt that as damage. So in theory, if we want to go back to trying to work with damage formulas, it should just be a matter of updating our abilities. So one thing that is different, if you've been watching for a long time, you know, I just want to call it out, but if you're new, I'll also just mention it, is that we used to try and have all of this data inside of the spreadsheets. I love spreadsheets for design data. Having data in long form, it's amazing. And so a lot of those sheets that I hid, like copy of ability, was representing that. And so this was like the way that we used to kind of do it, where like we had to have like, hey, this is how much power it had, this is what its elemental type was, this is the element that it would consume. You know, it's just it was a lot. And so you had to kind of put all of this data in the spreadsheet, and it just got more and more unwieldy and long as I started adding more types of effects to things. And so there's a bunch of different ways I'd like to solve it long term. In the short term, I decided to just go with prefabbing this stuff. So when we go to fire, now fire maps, all of the description data for fire maps to this prefab. And that's done by basically just giving it an ID. So inside of the abilities, we just say what prefab we want to use for that ability. So fire is mapped to the fire ability. And in here, this just has a damage effect, which has a bunch of hit and miss component-based systems, and a particle system, which has a specific particle that it's going to try and create. These particles are also all Drixie stuff as well. That's a recent addition that we've done, which I'm super happy to see so much of this just be all 100% our art. Yeah, I don't think there's... I could be wrong. I don't want to make a definitive statement, but I'm pretty sure this is all our art now. No placeholders, no gray boxes. So then this is where the power is. This is where we add the produce and the cost. So it has a magic cost of 3. It produces an element of fire 1. It has a magical ability power of 2, which was basically its damage before. And this has a simple damage effect. So I think if we remove this and just have a damage ability effect, then that should change it to be using a formula, which is going to get the attacker's attack, the defender's defense, do a simple formula of attack divided by attack plus defense times attack. Yeah, I don't know if I love this formula. Attack plus defense. This is my attack value plus the defense of my enemy divided by my attack times my attack. It feels weird. Try some test values. So if my attack is 5 and my opponent's defense is 5, then it would be 5 plus 5 is 10. 5 divided by 10 is that, times 5 would be 2.5 damage, but we would round that to 2. Okay, and if my attack was... Again, I haven't looked at any of this stuff in forever because I just it's a bunch. It's a bunch to kind of get the attack power stuff working. Oh, there's more calculations down here too. Okay, so let's say, okay, so let's continue with that 2.5 then. So I said that damage was max of at least 1. That makes sense. And then we do 2.5 divided by 20 times power. So power needs to be a large number. So probably something like 50 will give us 6 damage. Okay. So then if we did defense, so if I had an attack of 5 plus my opponent having a defense of 7, then 5 divided by 12 times 5 be 2, divided by 20 times, say, the same power of 50 would be 5 damage. So it reduced the damage by 1 by having 2 more defense. Okay. I get it. Okay, it's fine. That's fine. We can make that work. So let's leave the damage formula the way it is, and then let's just go through all of our prefabs and update them. So this is why I don't love this. This is specifically what I'm about to do here is why I don't love having these in prefabs, is that when I want to make a modification to all of my abilities like this, I now have to go through all of them and like modify each of them. And this is fine when I've got like 10, but if I end up having like, in my head, I want each character to have like 40 different ones, and I want to have approximately 8 characters. So let's do some quick math on that. I'm pretty sure that's 8 times 40 is going to be 320. That's a lot. And that's not even necessarily considering that some of those abilities, we might want to have unique abilities for monsters. Probably throw in another 80. We'll probably reuse some abilities characters have with monsters, but that's still, it's like 400 abilities. Doing this for 400 would be kind of nuts. So we did this for Flame Stab. Did we do it for Fire? We did it for Fire. Let's do it for Attack. So there is some benefit to the way that I was generating them before. That's why Defend's not working. Defend hasn't been working for a little while. This is why, because I'm not, I forgot when I changed over to the prefab system that I need to set this value, I'm pretty sure. Okay, sorry. But yeah, so updating this is gonna be tedious long term, and generating it would be way nicer, but I don't have a good way of editing the design data. And this is kind of a really clean way of being able to update individual ones. Okay, so the only ability I'm missing is Better Attack? What prefab is Better Attack using? Oh, it's just using Attack. So I haven't set up a new type of... So Attack, Better Attack is just Attack. Because of the way the system works now, the prefab is really describing the ability itself. This is more just the metadata around the ability. So it needs a different prefab, otherwise it's just doing the same thing. That is neat though, that I can have different names for things, but in reality they're just the same thing in the background. Okay, so I set up the damage, I think, for each of these. I want to quickly see if I can turn... if I can get this working. So this thing here, where is this used? Nowhere. Yeah, that's a problem. Okay, so in the combat factory, so a small detour here. We found something, and I'm just going to detour off to one side for a second. We're going to go through, so we initialize the display information, and then we add the ability. So we get the ability from the prefab once it's instantiated, and then from the ability, we want to do... get components in children, and we want to find any self targeting based abilities, and from that list we want to loop through each of them. Self-targeting ability, in self-targeting abilities, yada yada yada. We want to then set the transform? No. Self. We want to set self to be equal to the associated unit. Do we not have the unit? when we add abilities, do we not reference the original person who asked to have this thing created? Cool. Cool. It says 6 different references. All right. Oh, that's why. Yeah, I want to pass the unit in, please. Same thing up here. Yeah, it's still called a unit when it's a monster. Okay, good. And then in here, we're just going to do unit, and then self is equal to unit. Okay, so when we construct this thing, we need to initialize this prefab. Even though we're instantiating them as prefabs, I think it's good. I think this is better. So defend should actually be working. This is a bug I didn't think I was just going to be kind of magically fixing. Ninja Penguin Live says, I've been just lurking in and out and it's so cozy. I appreciate that. I appreciate you letting me know. I see that we do have a couple more people hanging out this time. When we were streaming before, there was less, but I like doing this. I like doing the game dev things. I hope that as we get closer to the game looking more like a thing, that there'll be more things that I'm like, I hope that there's more stuff I can do that will not just be me running through code for hours, but like actually kind of like building the actual video game and creating content for it. So let's see, can we defend now? We can. It wouldn't let me select this before, and that's because we didn't have a valid target. And yeah, we can't target anything else except ourselves. And now we can cast defend. Whoa, that's an old... Okay, that's not Trixie's art, so we'll need to update that. In the meantime, what do we want to update that with? I guess we could just have him flame stab himself. That sounds fun. So defend flame stab is using particle effect F fire consumption, which makes sense. Good naming, Trixie. And then we will do this here. I'm a bit quiet on your end. Interesting. I can pull it in a bit. It's possible that I haven't set things up correctly. It's been a while, and I appreciate it. I imagine if I'm just a bit quiet, it hasn't been too bad. But I'll make a small adjustment and see if that helps a little bit. Okay, so we're doing fire consumption, and I will ask Drixie for a defend particle at a later point. I also might just be falling into whisper mode too as I quietly do my little Cody things and game devy things. Okay, cool. So that's description done, quote unquote. And I even hooked up the font icons. Okay, I've done that task. I've got a list of tasks for myself off to one side. So other things is targeting indicators. I do want to update the target indicator, as right now it's using the kind of square box. I would like it to use the same yellow box that we are using to show whose current turn it is, but like a red version for who we're targeting, quote unquote. Honestly, it should tint green if it's like a beneficial spell too. But anyways, I want to change the targeter, but that's a kind of a bit of an overhaul, and I don't really have a system. Everything else we've done this evening, I've kind of just been working within the confines of existing infrastructure and kind of just tweaking and modifying, like adding the description and the title. We're just adding things that already exist, kind of, for the most part. But the selector is a bit of an overhaul. I don't want to do that. Yeah, I want to make some skills. That's what I want to do. Let's invest some time in there. So let's see. So Fala and Giju have kind of this shadow energy thing going on, and narratively Ward will also get a companion later in the story, but in the early part of the game, Ward is kind of by himself and doesn't really have any like elemental type moves really. or any elemental producing moves. If we run into enemies that produce fire, Ward can use the fire of his enemies to fight, because elemental combo points are not per character, they are global. They are not per unit or per player. Everyone can use them. So enemies can generate them and consume them. You can generate them. It's all global. It's kind of like, think about it as like energy within the dungeon is the way that I've been really wrapping my head around it, and how I want to build it narratively is this idea that like certain characters use these shadow abilities and they leave behind like a mist of energy, and then others can consume that mist from the air and attack with it, is narratively what I'm trying to get across essentially. And so the slimes can use Shadow Bolt, and so can Giju, and that will create a mist of shadow represented by the tier system here of how strong it is. And then Fala can consume that mist to do a flame stab. And so there's essentially this like consumers and producers essentially within the world. And that doesn't mean that you have to be one or the other. Some characters and some abilities might allow you to produce and consume, etc., etc. Right now I've only got abilities that require one type of consumption, but I could see having a thing where it's like requires one shadow, one fire, and it's like a shadow fire based move, and so you have to build up both of those combo points. But Ward specifically doesn't really have much. He has like one ability that consumes fire, but I kind of want to have him play more with his stamina mechanic a little bit. So that's why Defend recovers one stamina. So I think I want him to have 3 skills. I want him to have Flame Stab, and then Focus Attack, which is a better attack basically. And it deals heavy damage, but I want it to cost magic points, because again, they're not magic points. I have more of a stamina based system is what I'm trying to get across. Again, some of these things aren't super well illustrated, but thus is the pains of game development. Trying to create your ideas is not always simple. All right, so if I want to make Focus Attack into a real thing, let's duplicate the attack prefab, and let's call it Focused Attack. And then Focus Attack will have... We need to go through and update the power levels of all of our abilities as well. I think 50 sounded like a pretty reasonable number in the end when we did the kind of damage formulas. I just had a realization. Did we... Oh, that's why. Okay, so we just made all those modifications, but we weren't really seeing any increase in the damage. We were still just doing 1 to everyone. That's because we didn't go through and update these values. So our power level was so low that we were doing minimal damage, which was 1. So if we come in here and we change some of these, that's cost. Oh, this is an elemental physical base power, right? Okay, that's why this has all this extra data. Magical, elemental physical, and that looks right. Okay, so everything should have 50, which should mean we're doing some sort of amount of damage, hopefully. Unlockable characters with the hydrate, thank you, appreciate it. It's good that I don't wither away. Okay, cool. And now let's add a magic cost. Say 3 points. I just want to see how that starts to feel. That's pretty expensive, but again, one of the things I really want to nail in is this idea of eventually I want to have ability improvements so that you could eventually upgrade or unlock a node in the skill tree that makes Focus Attack cost 1 less magic. So now it's a 2 cost ability, which would be pretty huge. Unlockable Character says, I don't know why the hydrate became a thing, but here we are. Do you know why it became a thing? Because I didn't drink water for 6 hours of streaming, and then I would end the stream and I'd die. It's like, legitimately, thank you. I don't say that just for like, it's like, no, I need the reminder and I appreciate it. Okay, so that's a cost. Also, if it's supposed to be a better attack, let's try upping it to like 80 power level and see how that feels. And then let's try it again and see if we actually deal some damage. Okay, so if we do an attack now, is it still 1? No, it's 8. Aha! Okay, cool. The enemies are going to need to have their health modified, but that's good. That's good. Okay, so monsters. Base HP or max HP is 5 currently. Oh, and I was playing with a version that had 1. So if we're dealing 8, it used to take 5 hits to kill a person. I actually think that's kind of excessive. I think I'd rather it take like 3. So 8 times 3 is 24, but we're going to have some abilities that deal more than 8 damage. Let's start with 30. Gut feel. These things have defense. These stats are quite high in terms of defense. Yeah, so our characters have attack and defenses of what? Interesting. So we had defense values that were very high, is what we had been playing with before. But if I understand the formulas that we were just playing with, if these things have high defense, then if we're doing like 7 and 10 for the damage, so what was the formula? It was the enemies at defense, so let's say 25, plus our attack, and some characters had an attack of 7. It's 32. And then you do damage effects. Damage effect. Then we do 7 divided by 32 times our attack, which is 7, is 1.5. And then that damage, 1.5 divided by 20 times 50. Yeah, on average, we're doing 3 damage, is what that works out to. I think I want those numbers to be bigger. Okay. I think, so personally, I feel like the damage text looks kind of wonky with only 1 digit. So this is something I've been feeling since I've done the tweaking of like getting everything set up and feeling right and getting combat to feel pretty good. This like ideal 5 is like, I think I'd like it to be minimum double digits. So let's see what it looks like if we get to minimum double digits. So, can we make a formula for this, actually? We're in spreadsheets. Why do I have to keep calculating this every time? So I want to do function, and then this is equal to... let's just use the row down. So this times brackets this divided... Well, wait. No. I've lost it. No, I had it. All right, listen, I got it. Divided by this plus this. Okay, divide by 0. That's fair. 6, 20. 1.3. And then we take that value and we take that and make it equal to this divided by 20 times by, this needs to be in brackets, I'm pretty sure. We'll put 50 here, or put the value here, and then this can be 50. That's 3.4. Okay, so if we make it 6, it's 7. If we make it attack of 8, that's 11. So that gets us there. But I kind of hate a lot of this. What if we play with this value? What if this value was here? And what if this was like, instead of 20, it was like divide by like 10? That's 22. What if we bring this defense back up to like 14? That's 14. Okay, okay. Those numbers are getting bigger. Congrats on your success, Trinity Hearts. Let's see. I'm gonna have... Okay, so what if I have a defense of 20? That's still 11. Okay. 35. 7. Okay, so that's too low. But if I get my attack up to 15, 22. Okay, okay. So our defense gets to be double our attack. And if I have an 80? Ooh, that's a big jump. Oh, okay, okay. So changing the power now has a much bigger impact. That's fine though. We don't have to go 50 to 80 on like focus attack like we just edited. We can make that a little bit smaller of a jump, but we can kind of, we have some granularity here. We have some tweaking, some value modifications. We're doing the things. We're making the video. Okay, sorry. 15, 35. Do I want there to be that big of a gap between defense and attack? I mean, legitimately, if I try and keep them closer to equal, the system works with 20. This makes the numbers a lot bigger. It's not a bad thing. It doesn't have to be small numbers. Does this work scaling up? So if this is 18, if I go 25, 25, that goes back to 18? It does not. Thus all of the math. Thus all of the math. So if this becomes 100 and this becomes 100, how does that scale? That becomes 125. Okay, so as the numbers get bigger, as attack and defense scale up, because of the way that we're doing this formula, the numbers get bigger too. I don't fully understand why. Well, I guess it's partly because attack... No, I'm not going to try and pretend I know what I'm talking about. I need to do more research before I can pretend. Okay, so what if we do small numbers? So, because like I'm going to have attack nodes, right? Like the whole idea is that we're going to have the skill tree. We're going to go into... We're going to come into here. We're going to have our skill tree down here. And we're going to be able to buy nodes that give us +1 strength. If I just did 3 battles to get enough experience for one of my nodes, then I get to buy 1 strength node and go from 11 to 12. Kind of hope that feels like I did something, right? So I kind of want big number increases from small digit changes. Kind of. That might be a bad idea long term. Like, I don't know what that looks like for an end game, but if I go from 6 to 7 right now, that's like a 2-point damage. What about if I'm at 50 and 50? Okay, what if I go to 51 now? It's like a 2-point damage. Okay, well, what if it's 100 and 100, and I go up by 1? It's like a 2-point damage. Okay, so I want my 1 to feel stronger than that. So this formula doesn't work if I want to have kind of bigger jumps. Okay, well, what if I scale this back down? What if I have 6 versus 6, and I go up to 7? It's like a 3-point jump. Okay, well, what about 50 versus 50, and I go up to 51? It's like a 3-point jump. Okay, well, what if this is 1? What about if this is 1, and I go from 6 to 6? It's 150 and I go to 7. Okay, that makes a bit of a difference. What if this is 6 and this is 7? Okay, okay. So this division factor is kind of pulling us down a little bit. And if I go to 80 on this power, so the power also kind of dictates how big of a span we get out of a 1-digit change. So if we change the power level, it changes things a little bit too. So yeah, I don't know if I want to go that extreme. 7, 6, 50, 80, 60, 50, 60, 70, 80. Okay. So the reason why power matters is that we might want to eventually have it so that there's like ability improvements that you can get that are node increases that are like increases the power of this ability, and that power is gonna be the, you know, there's gonna be this value. So if I have focus attack and I go through and I buy all of its upgrades, then I might make it go from like a, you know, 65 power ability that does like 19 damage in these stats to a 90 power ability which does 27. So that would be a pretty big increase. So I kind of like 10 right now. When we get up into, like, let's say 255 is the max, right? Let's say we're fighting this versus this. Well, power is going to have a big impact the higher the numbers get. So early on, if I'm just doing a basic attack, that does 600. If I do a powerful attack, that does over 1,000. Okay. I'm fine with this to start. Again, we can adjust these numbers like long term. I imagine over the next several years that I'm building this video game, these numbers are going to change drastically. I also don't realize that this is actually really small for everyone too. Well, oops. Well, oops. All right, well, whatever. Okay, so let's change the magic value here from 20 to 10, which will bump the values up a little bit. And in general, I think we want to keep defense and attack closer together, at least at a base level. So if an enemy has... Okay, let's say my character has 10 attack and my opponent has like 7 defense. In these situations, that's 30 damage. If I give them 8 defense, it's a point down. It's a point down. I kind of like that. Actually, that feels pretty good in that every point of defense is like a couple points of damage off. But a point up in attack is like a couple points up. It's like almost double, it feels like. Yeah, it's like somewhere in the 3 to 4 range. I'm gonna be a bit aggressive. I'm gonna actually drop this down to 8. It's gonna make the range a little bit bigger, which might make balancing a little harder, but I'd rather it feel more fun, at least early on. So I think we want to have ranges that are similar. So if we want to have the real question is just how much damage do we want to be starting off with? If we assume our characters have 10 and 10 across the board with these base values, then we're looking at about 30 damage. If we have 15 versus 10, it's 25. 20? It's 20? Yeah, okay. Ninja Penguin Live. I've got potato skins. It's a good day. Potato skins make for a good day. Okay, we're going to start our characters with attacks of about 8, I think. They're currently 10. Yeah. Okay. So Ward is going to have a physical attack of 11 feels right. Magic attack of 7. Let's drop that to 6. Then 10 and 7 feels about right. And then Giju's going to have a magic attack of 10 with a physical attack of... Yeah, that sounds okay. And then for the monsters... Okay, and then for defenses, I probably want them to feel about the same. So physical defense is probably going to be on the high side, so we'll do 10. Magic defense of 9. We'll do... probably reverse that. And then Giju... 10 and 12 will be a bit tankier. And then for health, I think probably somewhere in the range of like... So if we're... Okay, we got to figure out damage values. So if we're going to do like 14 damage well, we're thinking more like here, I think. Like 17 damage. We can bring the power down on the initial abilities as well in order to get it down into a range we like. Yeah, 40 feels a little better, honestly. Let's say we're gonna do about 15 damage per hit. Then I think I want Giju to be 3 hits, so 45 health, and then Fala to probably be a little tankier than that, so 55, and the Ward a lot tankier than that, so probably like 80 seems right to me. And then the monsters are going to share similar stat values, I think, in their forms. So 9 and 10, 9 and 10, somewhere in the 9 and 10 range for defense. For the monsters, we're going to do something slightly higher in general. So Flame Rat will have a physical of like 12 and a magic defense of like 14. Flame Chunks will have like a 14 and a 12. Goo Ball, I like the idea of being a bit tankier on magic, so 15 and maybe, well, $17, okay. And then Fragile, so 10, but really magic resistant, so like 18. These numbers got really big. I don't know what impact they're going to have. They're just going to make things a bit smaller. Defense is fine to play with. Okay. And then for attack, we're thinking probably in the 9. 6 is fine. 5? That might be too weak, because if our characters have like... Yeah, that's only doing like 6 damage. So probably something like 7. Yeah, that's a little bit more base, but like that feels right. Magic defense of 7, physical attack of 10, magic attack of 12, basic attack of 7, and then 11. And then for health, I think these guys have something in the 40 range. This guy has something in the 50, 70, 60. Rough gut feel on all of this. I have no idea if this is right or wrong. Speeds don't really matter right now. I don't think I'm taking them into account. So we're going to download TSV. We need to clear this data. This is probably going to break my thing. So I think what we'll do is actually just... Can we copy this to a new sheet just so that I have it? doesn't work. Okay, I might readjust where the positions are at a later time. But stat calc. I want to see in there though. There we go. Stat calc. Cool. Now we download the monsters. Oh, no, we didn't. We need to delete this and then download the monsters. Download monster data. Download. Save. Place. And then we need to download the character data again. Technically, we want to download this one with the new prefab ID as well. So we have focus attack. So this needs a name. We're going to call it focus attack because it's just easy to remember. If everything's named the same. Okay, so that's its ID, and then we will give that ID to our ability data. We'll slam that in there. We will file, download that data as the abilities. Yes. And then I think we're going to change Ward to instead have this one first. And then he will unlock a fire-based move from one of those two skill trees, which is the next thing we're going to look at after we get this all working, is we're going to take a look at modifying the skill trees to be a little bit more reasonable for an early game experience. Right now they're quite large. I think at least for this early kind of demo, I'd like to make them a little smaller so that it's a little less overwhelming. Okay, so let's parse all those things in. So we're going to parse the ability parser. Done. We're going to parse the characters. Done. And we're going to parse the monsters. Yeah, okay. I need to get something in here that actually like says complete at the end of each of those so that we know it's done, but it didn't crash, and that's what I was looking for. Okay, so now run the game and test to see if those abilities are showing up and if the damage values look about right. Ideally, our calculations are close and we didn't just like make it so everyone dies in one shot. $19, okay. Okay, that was a lot. 34 felt excessive. $34. What was that? So that was him doing a basic attack. So that was Fala has a defense of 9. So defense of 9. Oh, I didn't tweak the powers down. And then he has an attack of 10. That says 26 if it's... Oh, I tweaked it back up to 10 too because 8 was feeling a bit excessive. Okay, yeah. So we'll keep it at 10 for now. We'll tweak the powers down on all the abilities to 40 to kind of bring them back into range. Okay, so we'll bring that to 10. Very magic numbery, but it is what it is. As we narrow in on a formula, I don't want to spend too much time building complex systems to pass that data around. Okay, so then each of these need to have their powers reduced to 40 as like kind of a base level. 40, actually probably 50 on this one. 50 on this one feels right. Honestly, 45 and 45 might be interesting for these. They cost MP. They seem powerful, or more powerful. And then 80 might be excessive. Let's try 60, which is better. It's better than normal attack. Okay, so then with those modifications, let's see if we die in 2 hits. Should be a little cleaner. 24, okay. Still 2 hits. All right, So let's see what's going on there. So Fala took 2 hits. Has a magic defense of 10. The goo balls have a attack of 11. So that should have been 10 versus 11. I mean, yeah, I think I made those like 45, right? Yeah, that's roughly about right. Okay, do I need to bring this number back up a little bit then? Alright, maybe I was excessive trying to play with this. Let's bring it up to 17. That's a nice magic number. Just random 17 in the code. Part of it might also be that we need to make the characters a little bulkier and the enemies a little weaker. Like, trying to make them evenly matched is gonna make it feel like it's evenly matched. But if you think about most RPGs, especially like old Final Fantasy ones, it tends to be that they're not actually doing that much damage to you. One of those attacks did 4. Yeah, I don't want to be in the single digits. So this feels too far. So yeah, it's playing with that magic number value to get them in the range that I want them to be in. What does defend do? Blocks 1 damage. Okay, that may not be as valuable anymore. It also recovers his stamina, which allows him to use his attack again, which is kind of what I was going for. Oh, flame stab. This feels very evenly matched. Unlockable Characters says evenly matched is also aimed at games with a lot of healing and resource replenishment. Because when you think about it, the monsters only have to fight you. You have to fight multiple groups of monsters. Yeah, so like my thoughts have been on the Final Fantasy side of things anyways, that oftentimes fighting a battle in a Final Fantasy game is less about fighting the individual battles as much as fighting the dungeon. It's about getting to the other side of the dungeon in one piece. And so you tend to be a lot tankier, and battles seem to be trivial, quote unquote, because it's about trying to get through the entire area, not about, you know, winning that specific battle. There's a couple ways that you can alleviate that. So one thing I could do is I can make it so the characters fully heal all health and mana after every battle. Then every battle will feel intense because you don't have to worry about replenishing your health outside of the battle itself. That's definitely something I've thought about, but I'm not sure whether or not I want to like go down that road yet. But the other option is like making it so that your characters have a lot of health, but like, yeah, like you said, there's some sort of replenishment system. It's just it's a little wary to get into the, like, because in most there's this fear of, like, in some old JRPGs, you just hit attack over and over again. You keep hitting attack until you win, essentially. Because that was, quote unquote, the most effective thing to do. And I don't know if I want to get into like that level of, quote unquote, simplicity. Yeah, we lost. Well, there's the victory screen. And there's my debug selected and encounter screen. All right. So tune down the monsters a whole bunch for now. Again, I think I'm more leaning towards the Final Fantasy experience of like a dungeon crawl, than and like about maintaining resources throughout the entire dungeon than I am thinking about building something more like a kind of well, because I can do a tactical battler too. I don't know which direction I want to go in. I legitimately don't know where I want to go. But probably, at the very least, I want to crank this down a couple notches because I want to be in the double digits for sure for damage. Which might mean that my current attack might be too low, or my current healths, 80, 55, and 45 might be too low if I want to be in the double digits. Because I'm either just barely... Ninja Penguin Live says, just make it fun. Easy. They said make a video game, they said. It'd be fun, they said. It'd be enjoyable. What a great time it'd be, they said. No, I knew the journey that, that I was going to be on. All right, so... But this is what I want to get into more, right? Like, I'm hoping at least that this stream is less code... Like, because it's less code-centric and more just raw number values, I'm hoping that there's a little bit more interest here, but it might be just as boring. Who knows? Or not boring. You just listen, I'm self-conscious. Let me be. But I'm hoping that as we move more into this, it's more of, like, building the game. And less building the systems that I need to build the game. So yeah, if I want to do double digits, that means for my heroes, the implication that I hadn't thought of is that might mean that I might need to have... I'm going to pull these over so I don't have to keep clicking left and right over here. If I want to do double digits, that probably means my heroes need to be at least in the 80 range, probably, to not just die. I mean, to be fair, Fala and Giju are kind of one character. That's a really good point, actually. So one thing to keep in mind, and one thing I should really not lose sight of, is that although we have 3 characters currently, we only have 2 actions per round. There is a round system that's happening in behind. We used to have a turn order. People may remember the turn order system. Me and Drixie decided to turn it off for the time being because it was really hard to figure out how to build the UI for, and we weren't sure what we wanted to do with it, and we ended up saying, you know what, let's just get rid of it for the time being. But in behind the scenes, there is still rounds, and in a round, basically, we randomize Flame Rat, Fire Chonks, Fala, Giju as a unit, and Ward as a unit. And so there's basically 5 characters on the screen right now, which means that in terms of action economy, for people who are familiar with board games, right now we are at a disadvantage. There are 3 actions per round and of them attacking us, and we only get 2 actions per round attacking them. And so although Fala and Giju have 55 and 45 health respectively, as a unit, they're technically 100 health. Whereas Ward only has 80. So Ward actually has less health than them combined. So we probably want to bump Ward up to 100 health. Bare minimum. As a starting point. Monsters feel overly tanky, so let's drop all of them down by 10-ish. Let's drop each of their attack value, or each of their stats by 1 point. So, -1, -1, -1, -1. Listen, I'm a trial and error developer. This is who I am. This is how I code. This is how I live my best life. And let's see how that feels. Okay, so we're going to download this guy. Download TSV. Save that. Character, file, download, TSV. Characters, save that. Didn't modify any ability stuff. Okay, and then we're gonna parse that in. So parse in the characters, Parsing the monsters. Give it a run, and let's see what we got. So focus attack should be heavy damage. So let's see how much this does to the flame rat. 21. Okay. 11. 9. 6. Okay, so the numbers are still a little smaller than I would like. But that's fine. Maybe this is the life we live. We can't have big numbers all the time, because that means that we have to have huge amounts of health. Let's do Shadow Bolt, and let's focus on the back one. 13 isn't as much as I would like. Oh god, how much did we do with focus attack? Was it like 16? Shadow Slash? Okay, so better attack only did 3 more points of damage than a regular attack. That doesn't feel like enough to me. Oh god, they're invincible. We can never win. Okay, that did 22. Okay, so maybe I was wrong. Maybe it was 13 and 22, which is a big difference. That's like almost an extra attack. Okay. Okay. Okay, we ended up winning, but we were pretty hurt. And we didn't even get my goal of having double digits for all of those characters. Specifically, the enemies are starting to do less damage now, which is what we just decided to tune down, but now that they're doing like 6 and stuff, so it's not bad. I don't know if it's fun, but it's not bad. Okay. I don't know if I'm going to solve this evening. This is a long-term goal. So rather than continue to kind of tweak numbers, we've got something that's roughly working. I won a battle. Clearly I won. I am the winner. The question is, if I only physical attack, do I still win? If I just hit A through this entire battle, do I still win? That's the question. Or do I actually need to be kind of like using my abilities and my skills? Well, it doesn't help when you miss. Oh no. Oh no. Okay, we killed one. I mean, fire is the best attack they could be choosing to do. I also don't know how I feel about like the miss mechanic. Like everything has like kind of a raw miss. I do think 14 looks better than like 6 though. Like when double digits come up, I like it more. Well, maybe it's just 1. You know what? It might have just been 1. Because 1 was just this really narrow font. But I don't know. Doesn't matter. I also don't know if I really love how big the text damage is. It could be, like right now it's a 16 point. It could probably get away with being... No, I like it being big. It's fine. I don't love how many turns this is taking. Is like a legitimate concern. That took like way too long to kill. Like, I went through like Final Fantasy X again recently, and like Final Fantasy X is like a bit of a puzzle in like each character like deals damage to like specific enemies at like slightly better rates. So like Titus does better against the dodgy guys. Lulu with her magic does better against the flans. Waka does better against flyers with the blitz ball. Like there's like a certain Orin does better against heavy guys with his melee attacks. Like there's kind of almost like a rhythm to like the abilities. And so the battles tend to be almost like one hit per enemy if you've like skilled up, quote unquote, correctly. That's kind of a cool moment. I noticed how weak the defense was on the mushroom, and so physical attack from Ward was really strong. So it was like, oh, I'll just physical attack again. That was kind of fun. There's like a taste of fun in there. It wasn't like a real like, oh my god, that was the best moment in gaming ever, but it was like, yeah, it's kind of neat. Okay. So changing the value to 10 just made the battle faster. And that's what I want. I don't want, like, I don't know if I want Final Fantasy X style one hit per enemy to kill them, but I definitely don't want battles to be like long, drawn out puzzle like experiences. Like, okay, welcome to my TED Talk. I think that, like, I've been thinking a lot about like that Final Fantasy VI, Final Fantasy X type battle experiences where they're short, relatively straightforward, one attack to kill them, but you're kind of trying to maintain a set of resources throughout the entire battle experience. And like, it feels sometimes like there's like a different kind of battle. There's like Final Fantasy Tactics has like this system in which like most of their battles are like 30 minutes ish long, where you go into a battle zone. It's a big tactical battle. You move around. There's lots of choices and decisions, and it's sometimes a struggle to get through one battle. But that one battle might take the same length of time as it would to get through an entire dungeon in like a Final Fantasy VI type experience. And so essentially, you can either have a battle that is the dungeon, or you can have a dungeon with a lot of small battles in which they are just hindrances and obstacles to getting through the dungeon. And it depends on what kind of JRPG you want to make. I've been spending a lot of time with Drixie building out a dungeon, so I'm pretty sure I want to build the first version of like the Final Fantasy VI, Final Fantasy X version of like it's a dungeon with obstacles, right? But like there's also something to be said for like puzzle like mechanics. Clearly, because I have this elemental combo point system I'm trying to operate with, I also really care about like having this kind of like, you know, ebb and flow to a battle where you're like making decisions about the attacks you do. So, and like I think part of the idea behind this is to try and do something where like I'd like to do something somewhere in between. And what we've kind of been working towards is this idea of the elemental stuff lasting between battles. And like that might help a little bit in terms of like, hey, there's going to be battles where you generate elements and they might take a little bit longer, but you might, you know, keep some elements between battles, and the next battle will be shorter because of that. And so there'll be like some decision making because the elemental combo point system will persist, is kind of the idea. I want to see how much heavy attack does on the mushroom. Yeah, 34. Okay, cool. That's a neat moment. Like, just realizing, oh yeah, I tuned it down low, but it wasn't something I remembered. It was something I felt by how much damage I was doing to him. Oh yeah, Ward also is getting wrecked over there. I need to look at what defend is actually doing. Okay, so we won the battle. Now at this point, we'd basically have to leave the battle and heal with a bunch of potions in order to stay alive. Okay, cool. I'm feeling okay with those tuning values. They're not perfect by any means, but they're okay. Let's take a quick look at defend, and let's try and figure out what defend is actually physically doing. Open prefab. So it has an inflict It inflicts the defend status effect. Okay, so what is the defend status effect? Oh, neat. I had it built the other way at first. I assume this is supposed to be this way. Yeah, when we're trying to get the defense, times it by 2. So if I call defend, so I like that. So that sounds pretty reasonable. Let's check on it. So ward has a defense of 10. Does that get defense from... We have a magic defense versus a physical defense. Does this cover for both? Get defense notification. This is in here. That's a question. Are we actually using the magic defense? Because it doesn't look like it. It looks like we're just getting attack and defense. So where do these values get used? So on get base defense. Okay, well, how does this work? Get base defense. It's abstract. Okay, so each thing needs to define that? Mm-hmm. This is add value of arg1, which is a value modifier. Where in the system do I get my defense? It's been so long since I've been down in the dredges here looking at these functions. Like, are we actually using magic defense? Ah. Interesting. So elemental physical attack, elemental magic attack. Base.get base defense. Which, okay. Physical power? Okay, so if it's a physical based attack, we get the target's defense. If it is a magical type power, we get the magic defense. If it is a elemental based ability, which has some other modifications for, I don't think we're using too much of, although we might be. Oh god, that might be modifying my values. Boost amount, boost, get plus boost. Oh, we might be applying an extra boost. I have to double check that. Are we applying an extra boost on certain attacks? So, okay, I'm going to come back to defense in a second. We're spiraling. I know I'm tangenting really hard, but I just need to see what's happening here. Flame Stab is a elemental damage type effect. It has a boost power of 0. Okay, so it's not boosting. And then Flame Slash, same idea. Yeah, so we have the ability to make elemental attacks more powerful than regular base attacks, but it's just whatever. And this is base 45. Okay, so if something's magical base, like Flame Bolt, or Fire, it will use magic defense. That was my thought. I just wanted to validate it. Okay, cool. So then going back to defense, so we know that defense times the base defense of the character by 2. I guess that the base defense is modified by whichever type of attack it is, because we get defense, and depending on what kind of ability power it is, it'll get the right stat. So it'll times his defense of magic and physical. by 2. Defend. Yeah. On get base defense. Yeah. So this will add a multiplication of ×2, whether it's physical or magical. So if Ward has 10 defense versus physical, then his defense becomes 20, and he goes from taking 12 damage to taking 8 damage. So he's dropped it by a third. It's not great. I don't know if it's really like having an ability where you lose an action on a turn. You lose an action on a turn to gain 1 SP point and reduce the enemy's attacks by a bit. And then after that, you can then follow up the next turn with better attack, which is going to do a lot more damage than it does like somewhere in the range of like, what are we seeing? Like 1.5, like 50% more damage. So I lose a whole turn of attack to be able to use a 50% better attack long term. Like, doesn't feel great. Maybe if focus attack was like 80 power and it was like almost like a one shot, but you only have 3. It costs so much that you can only use it once per battle unless you choose to defend, in which case you can use it twice per battle. Focus attack also makes it sound like it should last 2 turns or take 2 turns to attack, but I don't want to risk putting follow in the front yet, so we're just going to do another physical attack here. Nice. Okay, that took him out. And then we can do we can't do any more focus attacks unless we defended for 3 turns, so we'll just do a regular attack for 22. Regular attack for 9. We can switch to follow and try and shadow slash to kill this guy. Alright. I felt like I was making choices. I don't know if I was making good choices, but I felt like I was making choices. Cool. So we fixed defend, we tweaked some stuff, validated our understanding of our combat system. Let's take a quick look in the front end. And let's look at setting up focus attack to have its own tree. So let's go into UI, front end, screen, skills, skill components, node loader. Okay, so this is the thing I spent a bunch of time on, making it so that we can load up specific abilities. So let's load Pt.2 focus attack, load ability. This is what focus attack looks like. Now, we can also load up specific templates as well. So we have skill template 6. If we look here, there are several skill template TSVs that I've made. Night Unlockable Characters. Thanks for stopping in, and thanks for saying goodnight. Oh, stretch redemption. Alright, you're probably right. Probably right. Been sitting for like 3 hours. No, it's only 2. Why does it feel like it's so much longer this evening? Alright. So we have these skill templates. So the idea here is that we can construct this map of data based off of information in here. So if we go into ability map, these are some of these existing maps that I've had. So I'm going to duplicate this one, and we're going to try doing something a little bit smaller. You can actually see this is the current map that we have up. So if I move this off to one side, it's weirdly offset, but you can kind of see it, right? It's because we're taking something that is we're making something that is like grid based into something that's ISO. So it gets kind of weirdly shifted. And there's not a whole lot of room with the size of the tiles that we have, but like this feels right to me in terms of the number. So if we like select all of these, we can see that it's 19 tiles. 19 feels like a lot. Like looking at other JRPG skill-based systems, like 19 is a pretty average number. Like Final Fantasy World had about 17 or so, some higher ones in some spots, but for the most part, like it seems like a pretty good number. Now, for this demo, in order to try and figure some of this stuff out, I want to try doing some smaller grids for some of the early ones. So I kind of want to have Focus Attack lead into Flame Stab as an unlocked skill. And I want to have that happen fairly quickly. So let's narrow this down and let's just pull it back. Let's pull it back into something that's a bit smaller, but still has some decisions in it, ideally. So this is 7 nodes. Still feels a little long. What if we just had... just had that? What if we just had that? Where would that look? What would that look like though? So if we went back, so here is where the center point is. We have this point here. This is that center point. We go all the way forward again. This would be that center point. So I guess then this would literally just be this shape. It's kind of neat. Would I want to flip it though? Would it be more interesting if it went that way? I don't know. Okay, so this would be like the starting node, because there's always like an entry point into the grid, basically. So this would be the starting node, and then that starting node could either go 1, 2 into a mastery node, or 1, 2 into a new skill unlock, and then these 3 nodes here can be skill upgrades. We could also do that and have like 5 skill upgrades if we wanted. It's kind of cool. We've already gotten ourselves up into 10. Oh, the red lines are meant to represent also like basically the art that I don't really want to try and cover. So if we start here with the start node, we could have the mastery node here, and we could have a new skill unlock here. We could have a node here that's like rather expensive, like we could, because these things can cost different skill point amounts, so we could have something that like requires it like to cost like 10 skill points, and then on the other side of it is like 2 attack points and like another new skill. That could be cool. Just kind of working through the ideas here, but like Final Fantasy X had like this idea of like lock spheres, which would like prevent you from moving further into the grid until you found specific items. Kind of like that idea, and I think that'd be really cool to do in like early skills where it's like, oh, you need a specific kind of key in order to get past this part, and then it's like, well, how do I get that? Okay, let's start here. Let's start here. It's a little bigger than I originally wanted, but I kind of like this idea of like having like a little wing area that's like you can't really get to. This is a first attempt at a small version. Okay, so we'll grab this name. We'll click on here. We'll come into here and we will generate template via TSV. Okay. Feels a little lopsided. Feels a little lopsided. Could we shift everything over by 1? How does that work? Let's save it as a different template because I'm not sure about it. So if we shift it over, it also shifts it up. Don't hate it. Don't hate it. Shifting it down is more complicated. Just playing with shapes, trying to get my head wrapped around the spacing of like something that's a little bit on the smaller side. Okay. Let's start there. Let's start there. Okay, so then let's save this out as focus, attack, small. And we're going to save that template. Okay, so now we have that in backup. So if we ever want to, we can always load a template, and we can see that that's one of them here. So if we were to clear all nodes, we can load that template. And the idea here is that we might reuse templates. This template might get reused for different skills because we might want to reuse them. So we'll load that one back up. And then for focus attack, we're going to... So if we hit load ability on this, yeah, we had this one which was full defense. So we'd never really made a full version for this. So let's load back up the template here. And then let's save ability data. So this will save over that defense one with this new one. So we're going to do that. And then we're going to remove all and load ability. Hey, and we can see they're all loaded. Okay. So now let's go through these and let's update their information. So this information here with all the indexes are like the positional data for how these things are interconnected and what the connections are between them. But if we go in and open up node data, this is telling us what type of node this is. So this is the starting node. So this has 0 cost, and we can give it a description of starting node. I don't know if I have a better idea for that yet, but we'll say we'll start there. Now we can make a stat node. We can make this an attack stat node, and we'll make it cost 1. And the defense or the description for stats are auto-generated, so we don't have to worry about that one. And we can make it cost 1. Okay. Then here we're going to come into this one, and I think we'll make this one a mastery node, which sounds fun. Let's go to this one. I think I'm going to make this another stat node, and we can make this one a defense stat node, which has a cost of 1 and amount of 1. We made the attack 1, 1, right? Yeah, so it goes up by 1 point of stats. And then this one here in the middle... Don't know what I want to do for this one. We could do an HP stat one that costs 2 and increases it by like 15 or something like that. I think we want to do max HP though, is the correct way to do that. And then this one, I want to have an unlockability node. And let's have this unlock Flame Stab. So I believe I just need to go find Flame Stab's ID. So Flame Stab is Flame Slash in the back end, is its like identifier. Slap that in there, and we'll give this a cost of 1 as well. We'll make it fairly cheap. Debating how much I want to increase this by. 15 sounds right. Okay, then here, let's make this a ability improvement node for now, because I don't have a type of node for locking. And let's make it cost like 10 points. And then we'll give it a description of barrier node. How do you spell barrier? Google. Google, help me, I'm lost. There's an E in there. That doesn't look right to me. That looks really wrong, but I think that is correct. Yeah, obstacle or obstruction. All right, all right. And then barrier node. And then we'll make this one a stat node for attack, which will cost 1 for 2 points of attack. That's probably a bad idea. And then this can be a magic attack node type stat. Yeah, change that to stat. Oh, I didn't change the... Something looked wrong to me for a second there. This one's not a stat. I'll go through all of them and double check. This is 1 cost for 2 points. And then finally we'll have another ability unlock node. And I don't really have any other abilities yet created, so for the time being, let's just assume he unlocks fire. Like, I don't think that's what I want him to do, but I'm just going to do this just for the sake of trying stuff. And then we'll make that in a cost of 3. So it's like a lot of points to get into that one. Okay. Cool. So we have a starting node. We have a stat node for attack. We have a mastery node, which has no cost. We want to give that a cost of at least 1. A stat node for amount, cost 1, amount 2. A barrier node, which just costs 10, and right now it's an ability improvement, but yeah, eventually I'll have things that like increase the power of the ability. Defense, 2 cost magic health 1, or max health increase, 1 point for 2 points of magic, 1 cost for flame slash, and 3 cost for fire. Okay, so this is a bit of a weird one, but we'll try, and then so we'll try saving that ability data, and then we'll be very rash and try loading it. Aha! Look, and there we go. So there is that node. There's the mastery, unlock, barrier, unlock, defense, attack, health up. Drixie's still working on some of these icons, but overall looks pretty good. Okay, so now if we remove all of those, hit save, and actually go in and play, we should be able to go into Ward's focus attack and see that skill tree that we just set up. Skills, Ward, focus attack. Look at that. And then we should be able to come over here. Oh, we need to give a description to this one. And that unlocked flame stab. And now we have flame stab here. Cool. So let's load that ability back up again. So focus attack, load ability, loads back up the data. And then we'll give a description to this one. So this is unlocks, I think it's actually called flame stab. And then, what is the actual name for this? Honestly, I should make it so it generates. It's just called fire. I should make it so these descriptions are also generated. It should be able to figure out from the design data what the description of the unlock is. All right, focus attack. Come on down. Oh. Did I not save? Maybe I didn't save. Oh, I didn't save. Okay, cool. Oh, I'm 1 point off. Oh, it didn't unlock fire. There's some other errors to do with the player, but that shouldn't matter. Huh. I guess I've never tried to unlock 2 abilities. Maybe there's a bug where we can't unlock 2 abilities. Oh, did I give it the right ID for fire? Did I give it the name fire, or did I give it the... No, I gave it the right ID. Huh. Weird. Oh, it's not in a... It's in a... So, I really also should have these things update based off of the what parameters should be here based off of what type of node I've selected, but I haven't got around to creating a custom editor for Unity for this script yet. But that's what that problem was. Okay, that's better. Save, remove all load. Just kind of make sure that that's stuck. Yep, okay. It took me like a couple, like I want to say like 16 hours to make this thing, but it has significantly improved my life in terms of like quality of building ability skill trees. There's a lot going on behind the scenes when I hit that load button. It's actually loading up several different things that are all interconnected. Neat. Neat. Super neat. All right. We're not also we're not showing the health either, which is kind of sad. We need to update the character info. Okay, so the next part of the system, so we've got focus attack set up. I guess next thing is defend. Like, what does defend have? Like, why am I equipping defense? I don't know how I feel about it, but we could have things where like defense has like a lot of stat nodes in it. And so like we equip defense not because you like using it as an ability, but because you want to upgrade it. Don't love it. We could do like things where it gets stronger too, like maybe defense starts as just like, hey, it just blocks damage, but maybe eventually it like reflects damage or something too. just want to look at some of the templates I've made. Just trying to see if any of them like really like yell at me for like yeah, I don't know. Not really feeling like I'm not really sure what I'm feeling for the defense one. I feel like I'm pretty happy with the way focus attack turned out as like a base ability, like as a very basic early one that the character would have. Like this seems like a pretty basic skill tree. I kind of like this idea of having like a you finish this very early in the game and then it's mastered and you're just kind of holding on to it. And I really like the idea of this not being like 10 skill points, but actually requires like a specific item. And then if you go down this way, you get like a completely different like set of abilities. I think that's kind of cool. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. Like some attack, some defense, a little bit of attack and magic hidden behind this barrier one. Has simple defense, has a simple ability it unlocks. And so then it's unlocking Flame Stab, which again is like this monster of one, which I don't know what I want to do with. Like, I don't know if I want this many crazy, like, stat-based ones early on. I think I'm at a point where I need to start playing. Like, it's been a long couple of weeks getting to the point where, like, I can have the combat scene mostly set up. And I think today we finished off the last few things that were really hampering the... Oh man, that's so awkward. Do not use joystick in dungeon. But we finished off the last few things that were kind of hampering our ability to test the combat system. And if I hit R to get into like a debug battle, or to start a battle basically, this is feeling pretty good. This is feeling pretty good. It's not perfect by any means, but it's good enough that I think what we can start doing is like actually moving through the dungeons. Set up some like little zones that are like, this is an encounter. And then like you have to move through those encounters one after another. And then after each encounter get experience, which goes towards your skills, and start kind of gaining skill points and leveling up and start feeling out like, is this working? Is this system kind of all connected now, kind of making sense? Now I'm just playing the game, sorry. Yeah, I think we're at a stage now where I just need to... Well, number one, I think I'm done for the day. It's been about 5-ish, 6-ish hours of coding and like building. I think I'm pretty fried. I think I'm ready to call it here. They are just focusing ward. And then probably, I don't know if I'll come back tomorrow, but the next time we come back, I think it's going to be really just trying to focus in on the loop, right? Like getting the battles through, gaining the experience, putting those skill points into skill trees and walking further into the dungeon. Yeah, feeling really close. I'd like optimistically. It's the pieces are coming together now. It's just kind of playing with the numbers, playing with the skill trees, and trying to figure it out. And I'm feeling a little fried. So I think this is probably a good point to call it. Yeah. For now, though, I thank you. First off, thanks for those of you who've hung out and stuck around today. Appreciate the lurkers. Appreciate people hanging out, and I also appreciate people just like saying, "Hey, I'm just lurking, but I'm here, watching." And I appreciate people speaking up and just saying that too. It's nice. It's been a good day. I'll be back with more streams in the future. Obviously, it's been a bit of a break, but I'm gonna try and get some more in, at least kind of maybe once a week, but no promises. And maybe we'll do some more, finish up the Pokemon Nuzlocke we were working on, at least win or lose, get that over. Maybe come back and do some more Minecraft at some point. And I'd still like to play more Stardew, but we'll see where the days go. At the very least right now, my time is focused mostly on game dev, but we might come back with some more streams of it. For now though, this is going to be Toll